yeah, if you guys would share at your tables, who you're here for and maybe your names. We're talking about mental health and parenting, so this is a pretty vulnerable space. So if you could if you don't already know some of the folks at your table, that's a nice little way to have a nice break here, just for a couple more minutes as we're getting started, okay?
See a few words. Well, friends, I'm going to try to get your attention on doing this. The clock is swiftly pacing along. And I know that even as we go, there will be more from the common side of the room that are going to bring in they got cupcakes and they got all manner of goodies out there. We'll never get them out of there. So they'll come over and join in this. I am so thankful that we get a chance to advocate for kids. How many of you had a kid in your life? It might be a grandkid or one of your own or the neighbor kid. The truth is, they're in trouble. And I think this is one of those occasions when people of faith, people of good conscience, people of the capacity have to rearrange our lives. This will matter in how we treat that youngest generation and what their lives will need in the years ahead. I think it's time for folks like us to be counted, to invest ourselves and enlist ourselves in this greater cause. So I'm really thankful that I don't have to lead these sessions because I don't know a thing about that. But someone who does is Taylor Slice. And I've so far avoided the temptation to call her Taylor Swift. So don't any of you do that. But she's come with, not empty-headed. There's some expertise there, and I'm sure she'll be telling you a little bit about her own story, some of the places and ways that she's prepared for things like this. Is this for your family? Is this like the second or the third year in our preschool?
Our second year.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome aboard. Let's pray. Oh God, thank you. Thank you for the little ones. The ones whose lives are so precious. That this would be a place, that we would be a people with a reputation for care and advocacy and love, for them to be nurtured, for them to be whole. In Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Taylor.
Thank you all. I have my station over here for the web feed, but thank you all so much for coming. Like Pastor David said, I got connected here through the preschool. Laurel, it was my son's teacher last year. She's incredible. And just kind of through our conversations about the need for support for kiddos in mental health, I just kind of became more and more plugged into this amazing community and got to meet with Pastor David Kittle pretty frequently to decide what we should talk about here in this course. So I'm a psychotherapist and I have my own private practice that I started in 2020. And before then I worked for various nonprofits, working with various ages of children. Currently my practice is pretty well divided between perinatal care for women and adolescents and teens. So it's a whole basket of emotions all the time. And kind of from there, I kind of dug into more and more research on attachment and brain development and what kind of support is necessary for these really important times in life. So that's kind of my little professional spiel. But I'm a mom of two. Owen is here at the preschool, he's 4. And Emmy is 7, and she just started the Lighthouse School this year. She's in the 2nd grade. And then my husband, Tim, is here. We've been together for 15 years. And we hail from South Carolina. We moved to Seattle about 10 years ago so I could go to grad school. And then we moved up to Everett about 2 years ago. And we love it up here. It's great, especially with the waterfront fancy stuff. That's where we really love that. So yeah, I think some of you got to know each other at the tables and as you're kind of coming in. But today we're going to kind of just talk about a variety of things. But as you kind of center yourself here in the room, to be really kind to ourselves Again, I kind of said a little bit ago, but parenting is extremely vulnerable. And then talking about mental health specifically on top of parenting, it's a lot. So as I am gonna prompt some small group discussions, but please honor yourselves in those. If you would like to contribute, if you would not like to contribute, and let's have this be not an advice giving space or a judgmental space, but let's sit in a space of curiosity with one another, especially in this lovely church body. So yeah, just be thinking about what's your motivation for this series, why are you here? And then this is kind of our agenda for the next couple of weeks. Today, we're going to talk about the science of emotions. I'm going to kind of go through some baseline stuff to kind of center us here, and then kind of some emotional regulation tactics. On week 2, it's going to be a little more intensive. Again, participate or not, but we're going to talk about concerns and interventions, depression, social anxiety, social media use, kind of these big topics. And then week 3, we're going to talk more about connection and communication. We're going to do a lot of role playing, and have a lot more time for questions and answers and stuff like that as we wrap up this series. Okay, so as I begin, gonna kind of start right away with what are emotions. So essentially, our brain conceptualizes an idea and sends that information to the rest of your body. And this includes a variety of information based on previous experiences, right? So a really easy kind of textbook example as we talk about emotions are, if everyone could conceptualize an apple with me, we're gonna think about, what does it look like? Is it the little lunchbox apple? Is it a large apple? Is it red? Is it green? How does it feel? Is it waxy apple, or is it like a more organic apple that's rough? And then how does it taste? Is it crisp, or has it been sitting on your counter for a while and it's kind of mealy and mushy? That's our kind of first step into, oh, okay, conceptualization. But actually what will happen pretty quickly is that as we conceptualize the apple, then our thoughts are going to creep in and it'll lead us to other places. So if you're a teacher, an apple is going to feel like a different experience for you. Perhaps you're really sick of looking at pictures of apples all the time or gifts with apples on them. If you're going apple picking this fall with your kids, maybe that's like a nice feeling you have, or you're thinking about plans, or maybe you're dreading it because you're in the middle of potty training and that sounds like a hassle. And then to kind of branch here a little bit, perhaps you have actually trauma with apples. Perhaps as a kid, someone pelted you with an apple. And so me repeating this word over and over actually puts like a little twinge in your shoulder, perhaps maybe where you were hit, right? Like this is, even though we all can conceptualize an apple together, we actually don't know the feeling experience for each person in this room. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Carol Izard kind of explains emotions in this way. Emotions are motivational and informational, especially because of the way our brain triggers the body in response. Emotion feelings are the primary motivator of mental operations and overt behavior. So emotions are here for survival. They help keep us safe. So I'm going to kind of use an example of, if you were hiking by yourself in the woods, you hear some leaves rustling behind you, you're going to kind of have that initial fear response. You're probably a physical response. Maybe you'll feel a pit in your stomach, or you'll get goosebumps, or hairs in the back of your neck will raise. And from there, you're going to receive more information. Okay, now I can think of a thought of like a thinking process, a thought process. What is that noise? Is it a dog, a raccoon, is it a bear? Okay, and now what's my next move? How am I going to keep my body safe? So you're having this like internal and external reactions playing back and forth on one another. And then here again, same with the apple. We're thinking of, well, what's actually your feeling experience, and how are you kind of going to deal with that fear response differently than your neighbor? So I'm gonna have a different fear response hiking alone in the woods than my 6'4" husband is going to have hiking alone in the woods, right? We're gonna handle the situation a little bit differently. Make sense, everybody? Yeah? So as we, let's see, I'm actually gonna go here. Guys, if you have not read Dr. Dan Siegel, I will give all of his names to you, but oh my goodness, a wonderful, wonderful human being, and has written so many books. And a lot of my research is based on his prompts. And it's really, his books are so well written and easy to read. He has audiobooks too. But if you're a parent or looking for more connection with kids, get these, again, so many, but this is the author to look at. So, but he talks a lot about the upstairs and downstairs brain. So a lot of us are familiar with the left and right side of our brains. The left side is our more logical brain. The right side helps us experience emotion. So as we move through our day and make decisions, we want to be able to integrate and use both the left and right side to make decisions. And here, Dr. Dan Siegel informs us that we actually have an upstairs and downstairs brain, right? And we know that's our reptile brain, our quick thinking, our survival mode, like we were kind of talking about a second ago. So our downstairs brain allows us to act instinctually and make those split-second survival decisions. And then we have our upstairs, more formed mammal brain, and it leads us toward connection and relationship. So yeah, just to work on integrating all of those. And then I'm going to go back here in just a minute, and we're going to talk a lot more about that for sure. As I kind of look at developmental stages, it's a really, really helpful tool as you're digging into supporting your child, right? We want to accurately understand where they are as far as brain development. We can't expect our 4-year-old to act like our 7-year-old, even though I really may do that sometimes. So I don't want to go through, I mean, there's different psychological arguments for each stage of life, but I'm kind of just going to give a super brief overview here. So we're going to start with early childhood, and this is so important. It's why you go to the pediatrician multiple times during that first year of life, because 90% of the child's brain is formed from 0 to 5. It's why it's important that they get the proper nutrients, right? And you get all the support with those tiny baby years. And then after that is middle childhood, and children are better able to handle responsibilities and concepts in a new way. They're going to be better at sports. They're going to be better at riding their bike. They're going to really, math and reading are going to really start to click. They're going to understand these patterns and formations. And then also to be noted, at age 8 for girls, 10 for boys, this is a big hormonal shift time. Prepubescence is starting. So you're going to start noticing in your 2nd and 3rd graders, okay, where have you come from? That's a big piece of middle childhood for sure. And then we're going to talk about adolescence and their transition into adulthood. And this is rapid brain development here. These kids are looking for new emotional regulation skills hourly. So the support there is really obviously super important for them. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. So here is an example we're going to kind of talk about for a few minutes. So we say you have a child who is yelling at you. Never buy the food that I like. You only buy the things that you want. And you use your logical adult brain and say, well, that is untrue. I buy groceries for everyone in this household. So we're going to say cool. They're likely your child is going to respond in a negative way. What do you mean? No, you don't. I don't want these crackers, right? Yes. But we're hoping that an integrated parent response can look a little different. An integrated parent response would be it seems like you don't have the food you were hoping for. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Would you like to help me make the grocery list next time? Something where you have found actually balancing yourself and not being triggered personally by the that of your child saying you didn't buy the groceries that they want, right? And a big part of integrated brain response, especially for these kids in this like prepubescent, middle childhood or adolescence age, is a bit of physical touch if they'll allow it. If they're upset and you begin to start talking calmly, you can reach your hand out, touch a shoulder, rub it back. It's really gonna ground them. It's gonna help those neurons in their brain remember that they are safe and not in a survival mode downstairs brain place. It's also gonna help you ground yourself. That physical presence, oh yeah, this is my child, not my enemy. Here you are. Let me rub your back for you, right? Okay. So what could happen? Yes.
I just want to say for the grandparents here, that's hard.
Say more. Say more.
Very hard, especially in the deportment of your child. It usually does that right in front of every other grandparent in the front of the store.
Oh, the groceries.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So we probably will revisit that for our own sake later.
I like that idea. Yeah, and I like, yeah, we will. We're going to talk a little more about how to integrate. Yes.
So when you talk about the integrated brain response, you're talking about the upper and lower, left and right being, you know, you have to take some thought about that instead of the
Yeah.
trigger response.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a practice.
Okay.
It's going to be a new learned skill in lots of different areas. Some areas are going to be so easy. Your integrated brain's going to kick in. You're going to do great. You feel like a champion in these areas, but then your kid's going to trigger you in a new way. And you're not going to be able to have that integrated response any longer. So yeah, we're going to continue kind of digging in here a little more, but that's exactly right. Left, right, up, down. How can you, because you have a fully formed brain. We're through plastic, they're continuing to form, but as far as, yeah, no new places are lighting up quite yet. Okay. Okay, so our hope is if with this integrated brain response, or in a way that you can kind of reach your child differently, the child actually tells you, I miss going grocery shopping with you. It's hard going back to school and I feel like I'm missing out on things. And that was the core, that's what we want to hear. Okay, you know, maybe they still can't go to the grocery store with you because they are in school and it doesn't make sense any longer for your family. But how can you meet their needs in a different, more creative way together? This is the point of connection that's going to help your kids propel forward, and you have the information that you need as a parent. Yeah, let's see here. Okay, this is Dan Siegel again. Get really familiar with him. Says what kids often need, especially when they experience strong emotions, is to have someone help them use their left brain to make sense of what's going on and to put things in order, to name these big and scary brain feelings so that they can deal with them effectively. So we've all kind of seen this before, probably, like your kid is freaking out and you say, oh, wow, you look really upset. What's going on here for you? And sometimes that lands and sometimes it doesn't, but continuing to put words here is really helpful. It's your playing the long game in these big tantrums in the grocery store. Wow, you're being really loud in the grocery store. You seem really upset. I'm going to continue checking out, and then we're going to be able to check in with you better in just a few minutes. I'm going to keep walking, you know, something like that to offer your logical self, your integrated self there for them. Okay. And here we are. Next. And here's a downstairs parent brain response, a rapid fire response. You're never grateful for what you have, and just go to your brain, right? Ooh. This is a lot of us. This is the quick fire. It happens sometimes. Doesn't make us proud necessarily. Let's see this. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah, and again, this could be you're just a tired, at your wits' end parent. You have your own struggles throughout the day, and hearing an ungrateful attitude doesn't feel good. So but what we don't, what's actually underneath the surface for you is that perhaps you actually experienced food insecurity in the past. And now actually you have a little bit of bitterness toward your child for their ungrateful attitude. They don't know how good they have it, right? So let's like work on kind of digging into these places where these rapid fire places happen for you. So be curious about yourself. Why? Why is this? Why? Oh, I got so angry there. Like, what was really going on for me? So that we can better regulate and integrate our own selves. Okay. Any questions while I'm looking at my notes really quickly? Okay, so here we are again. It's important to meet your kids where they are and not where you think they should be. That's obviously easier said than done. So we're going to start some of the group discussions here for this next piece of the presentation. So I want you at your tables to kind of state, what happens for you when your child exhibits certain emotions, and share as much or as little as you'd like. But I would like for folks to hear from others, so it can feel so isolating. You can feel like you're the only parent who loses it. So I want you guys to join in the conversation for a few minutes, if that's okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I can kind of hear a few conversations. It's a lot to kind of dig into. And we're going to dig into more about family systems. People kind of familiar with that term, maybe not. But family system is a relational structure that originates from a household of two or more. And we often bring older family system structures into newer family system structures. Yes, we do, absolutely. So I think, let's see. Okay, so for me, again, I think I shared, I'm from South Carolina. It's a little bit of a different culture dynamic. And me, I'm the oldest of 4 girls. And growing up in the South and having a lot of expectations. It was really, really important that I took care of my siblings, and I just kind of became the peacemaker and an interpreter for my parents, to my younger siblings. And really, like, after many years of doing that, it wasn't a healthy style of relating. It didn't make an effort for me. It didn't give my siblings and my parents good chances to kind of work their own stuff out. An annoying child is always intervening. And I absolutely catch myself doing that to my daughter, who's the oldest in our family, and sometimes even prompting her to be the peacemaker between my 4-year-old son and me, which is a pattern I'm trying to break, but it still absolutely happens. So I know we're talking a lot about our own experiences, but I actually do want you to go back into your groups with some of the stories that were shared. Can you reflect, actually, there is a piece here that is actually from your family of origin upbringing, perhaps even other relationships that you've brought in that this doesn't have to be what it was like for you as a child. It can be, what was this like for you earlier in your marriage, and now you're bringing it here to your kids? What was it like for you in a previous marriage, and you're bringing it here to your kids now? What was it like for you in another working environment? What other environmental impacts are you actually like interpreting and projecting perhaps on your kids? We're going to take a couple more minutes and dig back in. Okay. Yeah, can't even move the slide. Okay. Okay, so a big piece of parenting here is societal expectations. This can be difficult to navigate for parents, for grandparents, for educators. From infancy to adolescence, we're comparing our children to the other children around us, to the children we hope they will be, and our own anxiety around expectations can inhibit connection and emotional regulation for kids, right? So yeah, as we think about this, especially, you know, Seattle is in the top 10 most educated cities in our country, which is wonderful and a lot of pressure on our education system. Yes, I see my teachers laughing. It's true, like putting your kid in the gifted and talented immediately, having them sign up for all the extracurriculars that are gonna look good, because you want them to succeed and do really, really well. Your intention is so good. And it's such a struggle to offer that and still meet them where they are, because how do we offer a structure that also encourages them and strengthens them and sets them up for success? And again, yeah, we really feel that here. So I think as we also think about parent structures, family structures, that have impacted the way that we react to our kids, are we also thinking about societal expectations? I absolutely did with my, actually, where's Laura? With my 3-year-old last year as being one of the younger in the class and still having accidents probably up until that last month. Just the, oh my gosh, we're so behind on potty training, right? And yeah, but you just, and I had my firstborn little girl first, and that was much easier than my second-born little boy. And that's a very basic example, but we do that throughout our lives, especially for teenagers. I see this teenager doing all these things. Are you hitting these goals? Are you gonna be okay? So yeah, just thinking about that as well. Okay, and here's another example that I think can really kind of tie a lot of this together. So if your child is difficult to wake, they are late for school, and then the scenario can be especially frustrating for teachers as well as parents, grandparents. This can bring up a lot. Does my child even respect me? Do they hate school? Will they ever take responsibility? And then kind of finding the motivator. For me, the respect thing comes up again. I'm a Southern woman. It's a big part of my culture. And really what is my own stuff around respect and respecting parents or respecting grandparents, and what's really like my kid just trying to express themselves. That's a hard balance for me to find. Does my child hate school? I think this is a societal thing coming up, perhaps. Oh my goodness, it's okay. It's okay if they don't want to go to school every day. And here in this example too, I kind of want to open up, because this is a really good way to offer your integrated brain. So if this is a pattern for your kid, if you're seeing a kid, a student, come in and it's a weekly, bi-weekly occurrence for them. This is a pattern. So what's the natural consequence here? I think as a parent, the natural consequence for missing their bus or not waking up on time is then you're going to miss homeroom. You're going to miss first period. And luckily we have a school system that has consequences. That's a natural consequence for your kid. This is what we're doing today. I'm sorry, I'm putting up a boundary here. If this happens every once in a while, or if you're helping out as grandparents every once in a while and trying to help run the school day, let's have a lot of grace and flexibility. I was late this morning here, coming to church. People are late sometimes. Can we have flexibility for kids? Do you actually have a few minutes to run them to school? Do you have a meeting first thing? Can you, yeah, I had a family who kind of handles the situation really well. And I think they have a 16-year-old who really struggles with this. They know when they're supposed to wake up. And if they do not, then their natural consequence is to take money from their allowance and get them an Uber to school. Interesting. There's something next week. Which is funny, like creative ways to place these boundaries and to use your integrated mind instead of just being compounded by triggers where your creativity and you're blocked by your own emotional reactions. Okay. And then these are just a little quick list. So oftentimes we are going to have to continue to support the kids around us, even when we're being triggered, even when we're frustrated, and even when we're emotionally flooded. So a reason why I wanted you to have those small group discussions is so that we can identify, okay, yeah, I'm mad, I'm overreacting. At least I'm noticing it today. Let's notice it. And then let's sit empty-handed with ourselves and stay really furious. why am I reacting this way? Is it from some of the things I heard, in this program? Is it stuff I know? That's pushing me today. And it's really important to take a break if you're able, or maybe after. Do some deep breathing is actually really, really good for your nervous system. Taking 5 minutes, just breathe in and out, or listen to a few musics, like songs that you like, something like that. And then we want to repair with our kids, especially when we lose it, when we break ties, when we sever, when we're frustrated. It's really, really important we come back. Let's see. Talk about that here. Yeah, rupture and repair. You guys familiar with this kind of term? Yeah, rupture and repair, really important. So when we make mistakes with our kids, it's crucial that we acknowledge, discuss, and apologize. This offers our kids a model of healthier relationship and trust. And use your integrated mind as you navigate this. A podcast that I like to listen to, talking about like teens and mental health. She's lovely, and I can share that with you all in a bit. But she always says talk 85% less. And I think that's a good rule of thumb that I also try to integrate, because your kids, if you're especially in this repair moment, maybe they're going to start feeling a lot of emotions. Maybe they're going to start actually getting upset when you want to talk about the incident or even apologize. So if you can come in and have an idea of 1 or 2 things to say, 1 or 2 words to say, and let them kind of lead the conversation. When we're repairing, it is about the mistake that you made and not bringing up the mistakes that they made. And that's really hard. Thank you for laughing. And this also is not a time to discuss with your kids the why you reacted this way. I reacted this way because my mom treated me this way, and that was not appropriate of me, and I'm so sorry that it doesn't. No, that's for you. That's for you to process with other adults, not with your kiddos. And I kind of just sitting and kind of what we talked about too. The physical touch is really helpful if you're allowed to touch, because it can ground both of you and bring you back into a better place of connection. Okay. And then my last thing for today is the power of play, with one more quote from Dan Siegel. With every fun, enjoyable experience you give your children while they are with the family, you provide them with positive reinforcement about what it means to be in a loving relationship with others. So I think a good trick that therapists have to getting kiddos to talk, to getting kiddos to regulate, is to play. It's called play therapy. Even doing a card game, even doing just drawing with your kids, setting up paper after school, something to kind of settle you both and put you both in a place. Playing is kind of vulnerable for 2 people, especially for like a board game or a card game. You both have a little bit of risk, a little bit of and your kids are receptive to that for sure. Yeah, so that is my presentation for today. We're going to dig into more as the weeks follow about why these things are important and how to continue to communicate. But that's all I have for you today. Does anyone have any questions before we leave?
How many weeks?
I have 2 more sessions.
Next 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me know also after if there are, next week again, I'm talking about self-harm, suicide kind of things for a bit of the older kid crew. I encourage folks with younger kids too to kind of listen in. These are a lot of topics that kids are interacting with as they age. So feel free to come, and also feel free not to come. It can be hard to discuss those topics.